We are now on to week 9, and we have the topic of Judaism this week. And so we have Judaism and then the biblical scholarship of Judaism. So Judaism is more the history and the beliefs, and the biblical scholarship is more a critical analysis of it, historical critical analysis of it. So let's just jump into lesson plan 10 and learn about what the focus is here. Okay, here we have the lecture notes. Okay, let's see. So we have the lecture, the notes, and the traditional music. Oh, I didn't need to click on that so quickly. Here we go. And then we have the required reading, and we have the main Harvard Pluralism Columbia chapter on Judaism, and then the supplemental. So that's very reasonable. These articles are here. Read like a chapter. Okay, and then you have the film watching, and let's see what I assigned here. You have a PBS one on Judaism. I asked you to watch 30 minutes of a 2-hour documentary. Again, very reasonable. Then you have the crash course by John Green on Judeo-Christianity. And it's the first 5 minutes are in Judaism, the next 6 are in Christianity. Probably just sit through and watch it all so you get that one over with. And then 2 optional films. And let me tell you about this one. This one I used to assign to watch 30 minutes of it. It's on the topic of Masada, and Masada is the mass suicide of Jews on the hilltop where the Romans were coming up to attack them, and then they all committed suicide right before the attack. And Josephus supposedly records the event from a couple eyewitnesses that survived the event. I think there was like 4 people that survived it. So to watch that, the only reason I pulled this off this semester as the required and made it optional is because there's a little bit of question lately in scholarship whether this was actually a historical event or not. So let me see, some archaeologists have called some of the accounts into question. So that is why I kind of pulled it from the main one and made it an optional one, but it's still a really good job how PBS did that. And then this one here is something a student sent me, and it sounds creepier than it is. It's the topic of the concept of, it says, concept of Satan and hell, how it developed from the Jewish viewpoint, because you really don't have these ideas inherently in early Jewish writings, and then they pop up later, and how did those concepts enter in? And it's really kind of coming from the concept of the religion called Zoroastrianism from Persia, okay? And we get these ideas of God versus Satan, heaven versus hell, good versus evil from Zoroastrianism, and they enter into eventually Judaism, which eventually enters into then Christianity. So that really is interesting how you have the historical connections between these religions. And it walks you through the history of it. So it's a 6-minute film, and then a student watched it and posted this article that fit with that film. So it's an article to read if you want, but definitely if you have time to watch that 6-minute film. Again, it sounds creepy. It's not. It's done very well. A good historical analysis there. And then the post topic is something that I think is going to be an interesting one to you. I have optional viewing down here. Oh yeah. Okay, let's look at that in a second. So here we have the topic of Israel versus Palestine, and you have from the Palestinian perspective, they've been in their land for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and then after the United Nations declared a chunk of that land to be given back to Israel, people were displaced, and so from the Palestinian perspective, they feel like they were treated unjustly and unfairly, and they want to have a Palestinian state. From the Israeli perspective, they feel like it was their land thousands of years ago. They've been in the diaspora outside of Israel for 2,000 years. They faced hardships throughout their history on this planet, and therefore they're thrilled to have back the land of Israel. So you've got the both perspectives. I've got the 2 films that goes with that. One seems to be a little more pro-Israel by BBC, a little bit more. It's supposed to be fair, but a little bit more. And this one's definitely a Palestinian view. It's called The Five Broken Cameras. It was up for an Oscar. I say last year, I think it was 2 years ago, but it's very pro-Palestine. And then here's your post topic on it. So it's very much a current event topic. And then, moving down here, a lot of pictures I have for you. And then this one is stuff people put up, and these are optional. Student put up like, well, what's the history of Palestine? I want to learn more, so they put that up. And another student in my class, their cousin made a documentary in Palestine. It's very moving. It's 20 minutes, and it's kind of a cheerful one. So that's the film watching, the post. Oh, I just did the post topic. I'm sorry. And then the exam question. The exam question is going to be very basic on the ideas, the history, the branches, and then the film. Okay, so moving out of that. The biblical scholarship, what is this all about? Okay, I have a note here. Please, please, please read. It's the whole idea that this is not meant to be offensive. It's a socio-historical analysis and why a lot of the Western religions are placed under that socio-historical microscope, so to speak, or magnifying glass, is because oftentimes in the Western religions there's historical claims being made, and when historical claims are being made because they believe that God interacts through history, it's called salvation history, to save his people. Then it's fair game to be analyzed. Oftentimes in the Eastern religions, historical claims are made and they're also analyzed, but Eastern religions very often make more theological claims that can't be tested and analyzed. For instance, if they say Krishna existed, that would be historical claim, and scholars argue that most likely there was no Krishna in history. But when they say Shiva is the god of life and death and meditation and all of that, that is outside of the realm of history and therefore is not subject to the same evaluation. But in Judaism, you get historical claims being made and therefore it gets analyzed very differently. This is a Yale lecture. What you do is you skip ahead if you want to the 15-minute mark and watch till the 30-minute mark. So it's a 15 minutes, and she covers the 5 misconceptions of the Bible from a Yale lecture. And the required reading here, we have this is the main article. It's called False Testament. Again, it sounds immediately offensive. It's not meant to be, but it's the whole idea that it reevaluates some of the historical claims and asks, do these claims happen as described accurately, or is there hagiography or embellished accounts accounting for it, and so forth. This one is a short Time magazine article on the topic of it looks at camels and say, did camels really exist at the time of Abraham in his world? And it mentions it in the Hebrew Scriptures, but historically the evidence is not there. So to read that article, to read the False Testament, to post your response here, it's very simple. And it says always keep an open mind because this is going to be a little challenging for some of you. And then it walks you through the 4 bullets here. And so that will account for the topic of biblical scholarship of Hebrew Scriptures. And we do the same thing when we get to Christianity down here. Christianity is going to have a biblical scholarship section, and it's going to be really examining who the historical Jesus was. It's the idea of there's the Christ of faith that people believe in, and then the Jesus of history of who he really was according to what scholars are indicating to us today. And sometimes there's parallels and sometimes there's not. So, or matches and sometimes there's not. Okay, I think that will click us out for that week, and we'll be heading to Christianity for next week, which we have the history of Christianity, the branches of Christianity, and the scholarship of Christianity. So thank you very much for listening. Let me click out and say goodbye now. Bye-bye.